Chapter 71, Husband, what exactly do you know? As Fang Hao just got up, he saw his wife returning, carrying several dishes from the city's favorite restaurant of his. Why such extravagance today? Fang Hao asked, watching his wife set the table and pour hot milk. Just treating my dear husband. He worked the night shift yesterday, and it must have been tough, his wife said, leaning over to kiss Fang Hao's cheek, a shy and tender gesture. Fang Hao didn't act melodramatic, he just hoped his wife wouldn't be able to leave him, so he could then dump her and make her understand the feeling of being abandoned after loving someone. Fang Hao went back to the hospital, but Lu Jing insisted he didn't need to go to the infusion hall. With no outpatient department available and the surgery completed, there was no longer a need for surgical assistance. Even if he went to assist, he couldn't perform any operations. Unless it was a significant surgery, the significance would be minimal. He spent his time studying and reading materials for his PhD in his mentor's office. Then the intermediary from the ghostwriting agency contacted him again, saying the sponsor had approved and transferred another 15,000 yuan to him. The intermediary wanted Fang Hao to write more, but Fang Hao declined, citing his busy schedule. He figured he would deal with it later. When Fang Hao saw the bank notification of the 15,000 yuan, he felt like he was acting like a thief. I need to get my parents to open a bank account. The money has to go into their account, he thought. He immediately called his parents in his hometown, asking them to open a bank account and link it to their mobile phone, then had a local bus driver bring the cards to him, which he picked up at the station. In this society, this messed up reality, having no money was not an option. In the afternoon, Sun Sini received a call from Su Ro and went to Su Ro's office. Director, do you need me for something? Sun Sini asked, sensing it was about work when she saw Su Ro's serious expression. Accountant Sun, take a look at this, Su Ro said, handing over a document. Sun Sini, sure it was work-related, opened the file but was shocked when she saw it contained evidence of her embezzling company funds. Director, She pleaded with Su Ro, hoping she wouldn't report it. Otherwise, she would be fired. Miss Sun, we are colleagues and good sisters. I can keep this matter from chairman as long as you cooperate, Su Ro said. Relieved, Sun Sini realized Su Ro had more to say. Miss Sun, I can help you cover this up, but I'm afraid you might betray me. Sun Sini promised, Director, I would never. We are colleagues and good sisters. Then explain to me why you secretly met with my husband and took him around. What were you investigating? Su Ro asked. Sun Sini's mind went blank, she now understood why Su Ro called her. She stammered, my husband contacted me. It has nothing to do with me. Oh, really? Tell me about it. Tell me everything about you and my husband, Su Ro demanded. With a hesitant pause, Sun Sini considered what to reveal. Su Ro frowned, producing another document and tossing it to Sun Sini. Miss Sun, if you don't cooperate and withhold anything from me, I won't be able to use you. Sun Sini, after reading the document, felt like her world was collapsing. It contained records of her embezzlement, something she thought was cleverly hidden but had now been exposed. Director Su, speak. Tell me what you and my husband investigated and why. Su Ro's eyes narrowed, her face cold and determined. Sun Sini was frightened and intimidated. She stammered, I didn't investigate you. It was your husband who investigated you. After the incident with the recorder, he discovered my issue. I received a call from someone while in your car, and then I didn't expect your husband to have a recorder in the car. He caught me, and I had to follow his instructions. A recorder. What's on it? Shuro inquired. I don't know. I think it might not be a recorder but something else. I don't know what he found, but he should have discovered something. However, when I asked him, he didn't tell me anything. In fact, I don't know your husband. If it wasn't for him suddenly showing up at the company and in your office, I wouldn't have seen him. Su Ro's eyebrows furrowed tightly. Despite her foreboding, she maintained a cold composure. She asked, on that night, why did you take my husband to the outskirts? What were you planning? How did you know? Sun Sini asked. I checked the driving records of my husband's car. I knew he went to your house, and then you both went to the outskirts. Sister Sun, my husband is very young and has a simple mind. If you think you can seduce him, you're wrong. The man of Su Ro is not someone you can touch. Tell me, what did you do that night? Shuro question. On that night, your husband came to ask me a question, something I accidentally let slip during our conversation in this office last time. He suspected, but I thought I saw someone who looked like you in the outskirts. Thinking it was you, he became suspicious, so he asked me to take him to that guest house. He checked the registration records, didn't find your name, and then we went back. Sun Sunny explained while observing Su-ro's expression. She couldn't detect any signs of panic, which disappointed her. She didn't see anything. But she knew that it was Su-ro at the guest house on May 1st. Su-ro didn't expect to be seen by someone from the company. She could only chalk it up to bad luck. But she wouldn't admit it. She said, in the future, don't contact my husband. He is a pure doctor, and I love him very much. Today's matter, I'll pretend it didn't happen. She waved her hand, signaling Sun Sunny to leave. Su-ro had figured out that Sun Sunny had only accidentally seen her, and she didn't know about Su-ro and that him. Suddenly, Fang Hao came to the company, and Sun Sunny happened to bump into him. Because Fang Hao and that him had distinct differences, any discerning person could tell them apart at first glance. My husband is getting smarter and more suspicious. Or maybe, he was always smart, just too trusting of me before. Now that he's suspicious, it must be a serious investigation. What did my husband install in my car? What did he eavesdrop on? The car key has always been in my hand, and I never let him use my car. How did he manage to put a recorder in there? Did he do something while installing the child safety seat? Fang Hao, you've gone too far. How dare you investigate me? How can you do this? Su-ro was furious. If it were before, she would have gone back to warn Fang Hao, asking him to put everything in order and apologize to her. She would make him obediently follow her like a dog. But now, she dared not. She didn't know what Fang Hao had discovered, and recently, Fang Hao had been drinking and becoming rude. She was so thoroughly satisfied by him that she strangely felt a sense of awe toward his strength. Submitting to him in this aspect made her inexplicably revere him. No, I can't let him take the initiative. I can't be so passive. Chapter 72, Ripples in the Dark. In the afternoon, Fang Hao didn't want to go home. He held the idea of divorce, associating that home with shame. However, his mother-in-law's call compelled him to go to Jiangdong University to pick up someone. As long as he hadn't torn his face with his wife, he still had to act like a grandson. He arrived at the university, found his mother-in-law, and instead of rushing back, she asked him to wait a bit longer. Half an hour later, his father-in-law, Su Buiyuan, arrived. Su Buiyuan was an economics professor. During this time, he had been leading his graduate students on a research trip to the coast, and if it weren't for Zhoufan's call, he hadn't planned to return. Su Buiyuan was well dressed in a suit, had a broad forehead, a clean face, handsome features, and a tall, steady stature. "Dad, you're back," Fang Hao greeted, stepping forward to help his father-in-law with the luggage. "Fang Hao, I heard from your mom that you've obtained the prescription rights and also become a lecturer at this university." Not bad, his father-in-law praised as they got into the car. Fang Hao knew that his mother-in-law had been promoting him. He hurriedly said, "It's just temporary, odd jobs." His mother-in-law interjected, "Fang Hao, don't be modest. You have talent. Look at your dad, he's all show, no substance. Look at him, all appearance and no substance." Su Buiyuan was dissatisfied. He retorted, "Look at yourself, always arguing when we meet. Let's hurt each other. Your research project has been busy for half a year, and I haven't seen you accomplish anything." "Fang Hao, I heard your mom's research project is almost finished," Su Buiyuan said, shifting the conversation. His mother-in-law's lips curled slightly, feeling triumphant. She thought, "See, my son-in-law is speaking up for me." However, Su Buiyuan was not impressed. He said, "That's also meaningless." His mother-in-law became unhappy. She said, "What do you mean by meaningless? Do you think your research, collecting false data from the government, companies, and associations, analyzing it, and then arrogantly thinking you've achieved something, has any meaning?" Fang Hao, sensing the escalating tension, attempted to change the topic. He said, "Mom, I think Dad's work is meaningful. At least, in macroeconomic regulation and optimizing industrial structure, it provides guidance for the country." Switching gears, he added, "Mom, Tian and Yue Xia have been waiting for us at home. Let's go back quickly." Tian and Yue Xia, these two little devils are what I miss the most. During this trip to the coast, I saw a few friends' grandchildren, so smart, quite remarkable. Fang Hao, you must pay attention to the education of the children. Su Buiyuan, not interested in the dispute with his wife, shifted the focus to the children. Education? You go and see for yourself how they're being educated. His mother-in-law's tone turned unfriendly. Fang Hao, feeling helpless, knew there would be differences in the way the older generation and his generation approached child-rearing. Back at home, Fang Hao saw the two little ones rushing towards his father-in-law, calling him grandpa with enthusiasm. His father-in-law enjoyed playing with the children, squatting down to shower them with affection. Fang Hao put down his things and went to the kitchen to prepare food. His wife and father-in-law chatted for a while before joining him in the kitchen. Fang Hao mentioned the kitchen's heavy smoke, suggesting his wife to go outside, but she insisted on helping. He didn't say much more. His father-in-law played with the kids and then returned to the room. Seeing his wife lying on the bed, he didn't pay much attention but asked, "Are we staying here tonight? Not going back home? You called me saying the house was about to collapse. What's going on? Observe carefully." Observe well, his wife didn't directly explain, instead leaving him with a cryptic remark. "Are you testing me?" "Yes. Check the answers tonight without any hints." "Ha, then don't give me any hints. We'll discuss it tonight." His father-in-law also went outside, casually inspecting the house, even entering the kitchen to observe his daughter and son-in-law cooking. They exchanged a few words. Fang Hao and his wife didn't notice anything unusual and were busy with cooking. Soon, a table of sumptuous dishes was ready, and the family of 6, spanning different generations, enjoyed a joyous and harmonious meal. A few drinks added to the festive atmosphere. Wanting to spend time with his family, Fang Hao informed Lu Jing that he wouldn't be going to the hospital that night. At 9 o'clock, after putting the children to bed, the parents-in-law, Fang Hao, and his wife retired to their respective rooms. As Fang Hao saw his wife approaching for intimacy, he remarked, "My parents haven't slept yet." "No worries, everything is locked." "Husband, thank you for preparing such a delicious meal for my parents. You've worked hard. I should reward you. If you're tired, don't move, I'll take care of it." The wife extended her hand, quickly realizing her husband's stubbornness. She felt proud, recognizing she still had charm, just a few moves, and her husband was already interested. Seeing Fang Hao, her heart melted, and she straddled him. On the other side, the father-in-law changed into sleepwear. Seeing no interest from his wife, he decided not to pursue new pleasures. After all, at his age, this aspect could still be active, but dealing with the affairs of an old couple was a different story. Moreover, the mother-in-law, being a mathematics professor and a rational thinker, was also dealing with hard issues, making this aspect less appealing. The mother-in-law said, "Come on, let's compare notes. Tell me what you've observed." The father-in-law, also intrigued by the puzzle, sorted out his thoughts and said, "Although I don't often come here, I vaguely see that the layout is the same as last time." "No problem. Although it's a small living room with 3 bedrooms, it's enough for them. Besides, we can always get them a bigger house or even give them our villa. So, the issue isn't with the house." "Nonsense. Get to the point. Don't rush." "Okay, to the point. The 2 little ones haven't enrolled in any classes, as they're just over 3 years old. However, they're very intelligent, and their education is not lacking." Looking at Xiao Rou and Fang Hao, their relationship seems much better than before. "No problem. I asked Fang Hao just now, he's pursuing a part-time doctorate. Part-time might be more suitable considering his role as a doctor. So, no problem." The mother-in-law snorted and said, "It seems you're not much either. You need to see beyond the surface. Xiao Rou, have you ever seen her in the kitchen? She pours wine for Fang Hao, serves soup, and even washes dishes together. She takes the initiative to bathe and put the children to sleep at night. I said she has changed in the past few days. Do you believe it?" The father-in-law frowned and said, "Well, that's true. Our daughter is a senior financial director of a large corporation, and her monthly salary might even surpass Fang Hao's annual income. Socially, she shouldn't be so humble. Do you think they're pretending?" The mother-in-law said, "I think they're getting a divorce." "Divorce? Why?" The father-in-law was shocked. Why would Xiao Rou do such a thing? Why wouldn't she? She's beautiful, financially independent, and we don't control her. Moreover, Fang Hao, before these past few days, I still felt that Fang Hao wasn't up to par with Xiao Rou. Weren't you like that too? Well, let me do some more research. Chapter 73, No longer in agreement with her. The next day, Fang Hao accompanied his father-in-law and mother-in-law back to their villa. The villa was quite spacious, with 3 floors, 6 main bedrooms, each with its own bathroom. Each floor also had a study, as well as rooms for activities like piano playing and calligraphy. There were gardens in the front and back, but due to the busy schedules of the professorial couple, they rarely had the time to tend to flowers and plants. Additionally, there was a garage with some decent luxury cars, though, as university professors, they opted for more modest vehicles in the range of 1 to 200,000 yuan. This was the background of his in-laws' home, and it served as his wife's backing. Once, Fang Hao thought this was a place he would eventually move into. With only one daughter, when the in-laws grew older, the house would be passed down to his wife, and he could live there too. But now, he found this idea shameful. A man should have his own career or, at the very least, his own money. Enjoying a free ride might be enjoyable for a while, but it could lead to a lifetime of regret. His father-in-law advised, take a leave from the hospital, half a day or a full day, whatever you need. Dad, is there something planned? Go upstairs and pack up. Move everything here. There's a piano, dance room, calligraphy room, and more. It'll be good for Tian and Jia Jia to play and learn here. Fang Hao hesitated. He didn't understand his father-in-law's intentions. In the past, he wouldn't have resisted, especially considering the importance of child education. But now, he was on the verge of divorce. What was the point of moving in? Jia Jia wasn't his child, and after the divorce, Tian might return to their hometown. It would be challenging to balance pursuing a doctorate, working, and taking care of the child simultaneously, making proper education difficult. Investigating his wife's affair under the watchful eyes of his in-laws might also pose obstacles. In short, he didn't want to be involved in this. Xiaoro. I'll ask her to come over too. This matter, she has to listen to me. His father-in-law asserted his authority and called Su Ro to take a break and join them at the villa. Coincidentally, Lu Jing called, and Fang Hao left first. As Fang Hao departed, his mother-in-law observed, did you notice? He doesn't want to move in. In the past, he would have said he listened to Xiaoro. Now, he talks about discussing it. And the result of the discussion is that he made Xiaoro stand on his side. His work is also busy. The father-in-law frowned and called his daughter directly, stating his intention for her to move in. His daughter said she needed to discuss it with Fang Hao before hanging up. His brow furrowed even more. Xiaoro can't make her own decisions now? Why is she accommodating Fang Hao so much? The mother-in-law commented, I guess Fang Hao has something on her, forcing her to see things from his perspective. Oh, let me tell you one more thing. Back then, our daughter's method of forcing Fang Hao into marriage was her own idea. In reality, Fang Hao only held her hand, nothing more. The pregnancy was fake. These two are not straightforward. The father-in-law was dumbfounded, exchanging glances with his wife. As parents, we don't understand our daughter anymore. So, I said this family is falling apart. In the car, Fang Hao received a call from his wife. She asked, Dad wants us to move in? What's going on? Fang Hao replied, not sure. I took them over, and then Dad asked me to take a leave, go upstairs, tidy up the room, and move in. His wife inquired, so, what do you think? Are we moving? Fang Hao said, my opinion is not to move. Besides the fact that it's far from our workplaces, I don't want to disturb Mom and Dad. I have a lot of night shifts, and coming back late might disturb their rest. Xiaoro, you and Tian Jia Jia move over. What about you? I won't go. Oh, I'm driving now. Let's talk later. Fang Hao hung up. He didn't want to move, didn't want to owe his wife's parents, or complicate the divorce further. Meanwhile, at the company, Su Ro clenched her phone, standing by the floor-to-ceiling window, watching the bustling streets. She could sense her husband's intention. Her husband didn't want to move in with his parents. Perhaps he disagreed with her family, or more straightforwardly, he disagreed with her. He must have found something that formed an opinion about her. He had already told his mom and Tian about the divorce, indicating that he genuinely wanted it. What did he discover that made him want a divorce? No, before her husband proposed divorce, she needed to know what he had found out. Su Ro thought for a moment, rummaging through a drawer for a business card. She found one with the mark of a private detective and dialed the number from the company landline. Hello, what kind of services do you offer? and what are your prices? I want you to track someone for me, his every move, time, place, people he meets. If possible, I want to know their conversations. Price is not a problem. His name is Fang Hao. At the hospital, Fang Hao had finished examining Zhang Bin, and everything was progressing well toward a full recovery. He noticed that the medications used were imported by air. This family was wealthy. Fang Hao remembered suggesting the use of domestically produced medicine to save costs, which now seemed ridiculous. Simultaneously, he observed that the senior director seemed to be making more significant changes to the treatment plan, incorporating her own opinions. Human nature is inherently wicked. He performed the surgery, proposed the treatment plan, and now the senior director made slight modifications, claiming credit for it. Anyone in his shoes would feel uncomfortable. Now, with a lower position, he couldn't say much. And the discomfort didn't end there. An expert from the traditional Chinese medicine department approached Fang Hao. Dr. Fang, from now on, leave the acupuncture for Zhang Jun to me. Fang Hao sensed trouble and asked, isn't acupuncture treatment under my leadership? The expert replied, the director said you're going to pursue a doctorate, which is challenging. We don't want to trouble you. You can focus on your studies. Dr. Fang, I'll be in charge of acupuncture from now on. If you continue, conflicts might arise, which won't be beneficial for the patients or us. Understood. Fang Hao didn't say much and left the ward area, heading toward his mentor's office. In the elevator, he met Director Luo, who had been waiting for him. She said, Dr. Fang, weren't you going to the outpatient hall? Why do you keep coming to the inpatient department? You're leaving your assigned work location. Seeing Fang Hao's indifferent expression, she continued, oh, I've already transferred your files to the outpatient department. From now on, you'll clock in there. Fang Hao asked, how come I didn't know about this? Director Luo said, I did tell you. Oh, going to your mentor won't help. It's a hospital regulation. Okay, thank you. I'll go get my things. Chapter 74, Exploited. Fang Hao was a bit puzzled. Why did they transfer my file to the outpatient department? Lately, there hadn't been any good news, so he didn't dare to think optimistically. He went to his mentor's office directly and asked, Director Zhou, Director Luo just mentioned my file being transferred. What's going on? Vice Dean Zhou arranged it. I told him, but it was useless. Fang Hao, a file is just a file, don't worry about it. I still have the key to this office. When you finish your shift over there, come here. I also informed Lu Jing, she will take care of you. His mentor consoled him, his expression serious. It was evident he wasn't pleased. If Fang Hao stayed in the inpatient department, his mentor could easily call on him. But once Fang Hao moved to the outpatient department, it would be impractical for his mentor to do so. Okay. Feeling helpless, Fang Hao packed up and headed to the outpatient department. After finishing her meeting, Lu Jing saw Fang Hao and directed him to her office. Handing him the key, she said, I heard about the transfer of your file. Originally, they wanted to move you to the dental department, but I intervened. I know you're pursuing a doctorate, and the dental department has fewer patients, which would give you time to study. However, working with patients in the outpatient department will be more beneficial. Follow me for now. Once I get approval for your individual outpatient clinic, you can start scheduling. I'll try to arrange your shifts for regular outpatient hours or night emergency shifts. Thank you, Director. Fang Hao felt this was the best news. After all, having his own outpatient clinic was a significant improvement. In the inpatient department, his mentor, a stern academic, couldn't secure him prescribing rights. On the other hand, Lu Jing, being more diplomatic and a woman, had better relations with the hospital leadership. Moreover, Lu Jing's husband had undergone surgery performed by Fang Hao, and the treatment plan was proposed by Fang Hao, making her support crucial. Fang Hao thought that if he were assigned to the dental department, his future would be grim. Although the provincial people's hospital was the best in the province, not all departments were top-notch. The dental department here operated at a loss because the treatments were expensive. The main issue was the lack of skilled dentists. Once a dentist gained experience here, they usually opened their private clinics and earned much more. Most of Fang Hao's dental major classmates now owned successful dental clinics. If he were assigned to the dental department, he would only earn a basic salary and spend his time studying, needing to write articles to improve his life. The chance to treat patients at the forefront would become nearly impossible. Vice Dean Zhou, why did he transfer me to the dental department? Do we have some grudge? I haven't offended his ancestors, have I? The more Fang Hao thought about it, the more depressed he became. He stepped outside for a smoke. Nurse Chief, look, Fang Hao is smoking again. Two nurses passing by noticed Fang Hao smoking. One of them, a young nurse, saw it. Next to her was the plump nurse chief, who frowned. She remembered Fang Hao smoking and, after using the restroom, decided to report to Lu Jian. Lu Jian thought for a moment and said, just remember it for now. His file has been transferred to us. Do we need to assign him to the infusion hall? No need for that. He was transferred here by the department head. After all, he's a doctor who can treat patients. It wouldn't be appropriate to assign him to the infusion hall. Comrade, we're from the countryside. Where do we go for medical treatment? Two elderly people approached Fang Hao, asking for directions. Oh, which entrance did you come through? There are nurses at the entrance. They will help you register, and then you go to the corresponding doctor's area to wait. Fang Hao glanced at the simple and honest elderly couple, typical rural figures. Their eyes were pure, confused, and anxious. He had just lit a cigarette, still in a state of annoyance, so he didn't personally guide them. In fact, he felt a bit lost himself. He proposed a bold plan, successfully performed a surgery, but his situation hadn't improved. Could it be that I'm just this unlucky? Of course, I'm unlucky. Perhaps my wife is now with her lover, in the office, or in the car, or maybe at a hotel. She's displaying happiness for someone else. The more Fang Hao thought about it, the more depressed he became. Ding ding. Fang Hao received a call from a passenger driver, informing him that someone at his home had shipped a package, and he needed to come and pick it up. My dad sent me a bank card. Fang Hao figured it out, then informed his supervisor and left the hospital for the passenger station. After a brief wait, he noticed a bus approaching. It stopped briefly on the roadside, and a ticket seller quickly handed down a package. This scene was promptly captured in photos and sent back to Su Ro. Su Ro suddenly became nervous, involuntarily thinking that this might be a clue Fang Hao had uncovered. She immediately instructed the private detective to find out what was inside the package and inform her as soon as there was any news. Husband, you're indeed investigating me. What exactly have you found? What do you want me to do? Su Ro felt upset. Her husband's investigation into her actions angered her. It was a lack of respect. She was exceptionally beautiful, intelligent, held a high position in the company, and earned a six-figure salary. She had her own methods at work. What about her husband? Just an ordinary university graduate from the countryside, an average doctor. What right did he have to investigate her? Without her, could he have married a woman from the city? Without her, would he still be a bachelor, renting a place to live? Even if he bought a house, wouldn't he have to bear a huge mortgage? She didn't need a dowry from her husband, didn't need him to buy a house, a car, cosmetics, or clothes. She even gave birth to their children, a pair of clever and intelligent twins. She never demanded anything from her husband, never required him to be a certain way. Now, her husband wanted to investigate her? On what grounds? Who gave him the courage? The more she thought about it, the angrier she became. However, her husband was investigating her extramarital affair. Once exposed, it would ruin her reputation. The prerequisite for immediate divorce would be confessing to everyone that she loved someone else, not her husband. But her parents wouldn't agree, and that lover wouldn't marry her. Her husband had genuinely loved her for 4 years, taking good care of her. She couldn't bear to leave him. Her husband was handsome, had the abilities of a strong man, and she couldn't imagine life without him. So, divorce was not what she wanted. Husband, at a time like this, being betrayed by me, do you really want my life? Chapter 75, Director's Guidance. After receiving and calling his parents to chat for a while, Fang Hao headed to the hospital cafeteria around noon. Inside, he noticed the same rural couple moving about. Judging by their gestures, they seemed hungry but reluctant to spend. The hospital meals were not cheap, but doctors received subsidies, making it affordable for them. Fang Hao suddenly realized, oh no, did the hospital cancel my benefits? They wouldn't cut my subsidies, would they? After a moment of concern, he thought it unlikely. Such basic benefits shouldn't be taken away, the hospital would be too stingy. On another day when the cafeteria only accepted cards, those without meal cards had to buy tickets first and then get their meals. Hey young man, Could you use your meal card to get us some food, and we'll give you the money? An old lady recognized Fang Hao and approached him with the request. Sure. Fang Hao accommodated them. He saw the elderly couple getting 3 portions of food, which would have cost over 100 yuan with normal tickets. He accepted 30 yuan from them. Observing the couple heading to a corner, he noticed a young man sitting there, appearing weak, with his head down on the table. Fang Hao wondered if he was here for his son's treatment. Since the incident with Jiang Tai in the infusion hall, Director Lu Jing was not in the outpatient department. She returned when the former hospital director suggested strengthening the assessment of each department's operations. Today, she was conducting rounds with Fang Hao, checking patient records, drug names, and infusion progress. Fang Hao saw the rural couple again. The young man was receiving an infusion, and the old man was dozing off in a chair, while the old lady monitored the drip. Examining the young man's medical records, Fang Hao discovered symptoms of fatigue and weakness due to physical exhaustion. However, with 2 bottles of infusion completed, he should have shown signs of improvement. Surprisingly, the young man seemed lethargic and had no strength when Fang Hao checked his pulse. Fang Hao asked the old lady, "What happened to them?" "We don't know what's wrong. My son suddenly felt weak this year, always dozing off. It wasn't noticeable in the village, and he didn't get better in the county. So, we came to the provincial hospital. Does his fatigue worsen in the morning or evening?" Fang Hao felt the pulse and inquired further. "Worsens in the evening. He can't work in the fields anymore, right? Even a little work makes him very tired. Rest helps, but he still feels exhausted. We don't know what's going on." Fang Hao was alarmed and said to the old lady, "He may need a more detailed examination. I suspect it could be myasthenia gravis." Lu Jing raised an eyebrow, looked at the young man's medical record, and noted that the signing doctor was Deputy Director Zhou Long. She thought for a moment, then went out to make a call. Communicating with Zhou Long returning, she told the old lady, "When Dr. Zhou comes on duty, he will further examine your son." After finishing the rounds, Fang Hao asked, "Director, given his condition, it's highly likely to be myasthenia gravis. We should conduct a detailed examination right away, not wait for the morning doctors." He recalled various tests such as acetylcholine receptor detection in the serum, neostigmine experimental items, and electromyography tests, all of which could essentially diagnose myasthenia gravis. Dr. Lu Jing smiled and said, "Fang Hao, you're just like old Su, too eager to help patients. Sometimes, it puts you in a disadvantageous position. Yuan Li Wei in the inpatient department, the pregnant woman you encountered in the outpatient department, both situations could have been handled more cleverly and effectively. Instead of straightforwardly expressing your concerns, you should find smarter ways. Fang Hao, your medical skills are not a problem, but you need to protect yourself more intelligently." "Director, what do you mean?" Lu Jing had already closed the office door and said, "What I'm telling you can be taken as advice. The patient you just dealt with was examined by Deputy Director Zhou Long. I don't know your relationship with him, but he moved your records from the inpatient department to the dental department. I assume he doesn't like you. If you continue to interfere with his patients, he will dislike you even more. Fang Hao, you're very young. You've been here for 4 years and still haven't gained the right to prescribe. It's not about your medical skills but more about adopting old Su's bad temper. Of course, it could be that old Su offended someone, and you got caught up in it. However, things don't just happen for no reason. Sometimes we don't even know whom we've offended. I've been through a similar situation, but I'm slightly better off than you. Regarding this case, it's undoubtedly myasthenia gravis, a rare disease that we can't cure. Director Zhou is still Director Zhou. Faced with such a situation, he is more capable of handling it than us." Fang Hao was dazed. He hadn't expected the patient to be under Zhou Long's care, and Zhou Long was planning to transfer him to the dental department. Although Lu Jing's words made him uncomfortable, they were not entirely wrong. He needed to become smarter, more shrewd, and not approach patients the way his mentor did, directly jumping into situations. Seeing Fang Hao silent, Lu Jing felt sorry but continued, "Fang Hao, don't let my words discourage you. You have medical skills and strong learning abilities. As a fellow doctor, I envy you. Even my husband has benefited from your medical skills. I'm truly grateful to you. But I still have to say, you need to learn to protect yourself. For now, keep a lower profile. Believe me, if you follow my advice, you won't go wrong." "Yes, Director, I believe you." Fang Hao wasn't foolish. He had faced setbacks a few times. Despite performing challenging surgeries, he was still not appreciated by the hospital director. He remembered something and said, "Director, can I ask you for a favor? If you get a chance, could you inquire about the director's attitude toward me? I always feel she's not fond of me. If I'm not doing well, I can improve." "The director has a problem with you? Why?" "I can't pinpoint it, but I always sense her dislike. Maybe I'm overly sensitive, but I'm a bit disheartened now. If I don't have a chance to stand out here and she doesn't need me, then I'll consider moving elsewhere." "Don't think like that. The Provincial People's Hospital is still the most suitable place for you. After all, you've been here for 4 years. Many alumni from the medical school of Jiangdong University are here, and in some matters, everyone can lend a hand. Fang Hao, don't put too much pressure on yourself. If you ever want to leave, at least get your PhD first." Lu Jing thought again and felt that Fang Hao's situation was somewhat complicated, entangled with Li Wei's troubles and his mentor-disciple relationship with Su Yucheng. She admired Fang Hao. Faced with such immense pressure, he hadn't been crushed or discouraged, indicating his inner strength.